Bill H.R. 1868 was proposed by immigration reductionists as a way to stop those children born in American soil to undocumented parents to claim their relatives, something they call the anchor baby phenomenon.
It's a little exaggerated because actually if a child is born in the United States, that child is a citizen, but that child does not have the right to request anything for their family, immigration for the family, until the age of 21. So it's very unlikely that women are coming here to have a baby thinking that 21 years later they can come to the United States. That doesn't make much sense.
The supporters of the H.R. 1868 also claim that the Birthright Citizenship Act is an incentive for the immigrants to break the law, and also an open opportunity to raise kids under another culture and make them dangerous to America.
My feeling is that this is not serious, that this is just trying to promote xenophobia. It coincides now with increased Islamophobia in the United States, with the latest 9/11 and the politics surrounding 9/11 and the burning of the Quran. And I think this is part of this wider process of divide, create resentment, fears, animosities, and use this environment for political purposes.
To make a change in the Constitution is a very complicated process that today seems virtually impossible. But the anti-immigrant movements are trying to convince the voters by appealing to one of the deepest American fears, the economic recession.
There is no economist in the United States that believe that immigrants are more a burden than a contribution economically to the economic well-being of the country. But one thing is facts, and other things are impressions and prejudice, and that's very difficult to combat.
Well, you heard Professor Moya, Dan. He was saying it's unlikely that people come here for the purpose of having children here.
Well, of course, I didn't agree with a single thing he said, or anybody said in that report.
Right. Well,
just for the record, look, somewhere along the way, this whole debate about immigration is going to have to start coming together in some kind of constructive center. The polarization that's taking place on this issue and a lot of associated issues, for partisan, political, I don't understand why I hear all these attacks on against our side of the issue, because it seems to me like leaders in the Democratic Party are using this issue to try to galvanize a political allegiance based on ethnic group politics for Hispanic Americans that is a cynical manipulation of immigration policy. I don't think
you don't see something similar on the other side?
Well, what I see is that every single solution that our side addresses, we get the same answer. Well, yeah, but this won't solve any problem, okay? Or as Angela says, we don't have any solution. We do have solutions. But every solution we propose, we get the same answer, which Professor just said, which is, well, nobody's coming here because 21 years they have to wait to get petitioned. Well, clearly the birthright citizenship thing is part of a basket of incentives for people who want to come here and overstay a visa or what have you, because they realize their children get public education, they get access to various benefits, subsistence benefits, school lunch programs. Just the value of a public school education is maybe worth 15, 20 times the average annual income in many countries around the world.
No, but what I'm trying to get at
the argument is, well, you're really not. He's trying to argue that there's no incentive associated with birthright citizenship, and therefore changing the 14th Amendment or reinterpreting the 14th Amendment won't, quote, solve any problem.
Well, that's the question. Does it create an incentive?
Of course it creates an incentive.
But many of these rights that you're describing and the access to public service that you're describing adheres to children who are here out of status just as it does to children who were born here. If you are the minor children of people who are out of status, you go to school, you get the school lunch program, you get all these other things. Whether the children's out, of course you do. Well,
the proposals that first of all, that's not true. Not every benefit's available to someone here illegally, no matter what their age is. But secondly, in Plyler versus, we can go into Plyler versus Doe, but when the Plyler versus, Back when the Texas school case was decided that the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund brought, they made the argument. That's the case that said public education had to be provided to kids here illegally, taxpayer expense. The school system couldn't charge tuition. The argument was made, no evidence, the Supreme Court said, there was posing any burden on public school. Maldev said, small population, not a big issue, just give them K through 12, but it doesn't give them any immigration benefits. Well, Plyler versus Doe has been interpreted to mean that states and schools cannot inquire about status when they enroll kids, and naturally, now we have a tremendous burden associated with educating
and nobody is questioning the fact that there's a lot of kids here. That's not the question. The question is there an incentive for families to have their children here? Is there an incentive for families to have their children here?
He's not a
to some degree there is an incentive, but I'd say that's a good thing. I mean, we're supposed to be, we're not supposed to conform to the rest of the world standards. As Dan said earlier, we're supposed to be better than the rest of the world. And one of the things that makes us better is being that beacon of hope where people come for freedom and opportunity, where every wave of immigration has been the poor. That's why it says, give us your poor at the Statue of Liberty. It doesn't say, give us your rich and well off and, whatever else Dan would want to say. This notion that, we're going to conform to the rest of the world standards is only going to create a permanent underclass of non-citizen people, and it's going to compound whatever problems that we already have. It's going to make the situation worse, not better.
But as a practical matter, if we go into a classroom in Washington Heights in Manhattan, and there's two kids sitting in the third grade, and one was born at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, and one was born in Santo Domingo, and they're both, 6 or 7 or 8 years old. Is the burden, is the responsibility different? Was the incentive there for that family to hustle and get on the plane to get that kid born here?
Look, I don't know about you guys.
Is there an incentive?
Maybe, Diana, you have children. I've been pregnant twice. I can tell you that I wouldn't be waddling across the border and dropping and delivering a baby. I mean, women don't make that decision, and Pew, the Hispanic Center, has looked at undocumented kids that are children that are born here of undocumented parents and how long they've lived here, and they've lived here for a substantial period of time, the undocumented mother, before they have the child. Women don't come here to drop and deliver, which is a very offensive term by Senator Graham and others, babies, right? They're coming here because they want to work and they want to make a better life for themselves. The problem is that we don't have a legal system that permits them to enter with a visa, so they come with a smuggler. At the root of the problem is that we don't have an immigration system that facilitates legal entry. We don't know who's coming to this country. We don't know if they're paying taxes or not. We don't know their identity. That's the problem that needs to be solved, not whether women make the choice to come and deliver a baby here.
You're suggesting that the State Department should just give a visa to any woman who looks like she's about to deliver so she can come here and have a baby.
No,
it's not enough to say the solution we're talking about won't work, but then have no alternative except let everybody come.
What I'm saying, Dan, we need to make decisions on who comes to this country based on what's international interest. We need to make decisions on how many workers we need. We need to reunite close family members quickly. We aren't making those decisions now.
I have a thought. You know what? The whole birthright citizenship issue will ultimately get resolved when the business community, I assume you're funded by, starts to realize, and this is why you're starting to see some Republican interest in this issue, there's enormous interest in guest workers among the business community. They want to bring a lot of guest workers in, people who work 9 months, etc., and leave. Business feels that they need guest workers. If they feel that the illegal population is going to be cut off, they immediately turn around and say, we need a lot of guest workers. We don't think we need any guest workers. We think Americans are out of work. Plenty of reasons why you should be enforcing existing immigration law. However, eventually the Chamber of Commerce and other organizations are going to figure out, if they haven't already, that the smooth and orderly operation of a guest worker program that the American people would ever accept is defeated in part by the current interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which says that if you're here for 3 or 4 months working in the fields and then your children are citizens, it makes it much more difficult to get the parents to leave.
Does it make it more difficult to get parents to leave
hardship
if
waiver,
they have citizen children?
You ask for hardship waivers if your kids are citizens.
I think the key is we're missing the point here, right? We're not looking at the exact birth moment of which someone is born, right? We're looking at not only after they're born, but their entire life in the United States and being an American citizen and what that means. And so what you're doing is you're taking this theoretical approach, which doesn't apply, and you're taking it so that now you have all of these children that are Americans, and we're all Americans, and now all of a sudden that's going to change. And you want to change the entire system.
You are operating on the assumption that we're not going to ever enforce immigration laws.
No, actually, I'm looking at it aside from immigration law. I'm looking at it as being an American. And being an American is you're born here, and you live, and you love your country, and you love the flag, and you do everything to protect that country.
Many of the parents who bring their children here for birth tourism
has nothing to do with immigration.
Actually take their children right back home. The idea being that by getting the citizenship document, they've actually given their child a gift that someday may be useful in this world of dual citizenship and multinational passports, that this is an asset, as a protection against political instability in the home country. There are lots of reasons why people do this sort of thing, and it may not be with the intention of even the child living here any time between the ages of 1 and 18.
Well, Diana, a lot of the anchor baby debate, for want of a better term, is based on the assumption that there is an incentive for people who would like to have a stake in some way or another in the United States. They, their family, their descendants. That having the kid here is better than having a kid elsewhere, if that's your intention.
Exactly.
So the question is there an incentive to do that? Or is the existence of these children simply an outgrowth of the problems we have writ large with immigration? That's the question.
I absolutely think it's a function of the outgrowth of the problem with immigration. And when you talk about incentives, you're talking about a 21-year incentive. And generally, individuals come to the United States in an undocumented fashion because they need the next day's meal, they need to survive. It's not something of, oh, well, let me go here, so 21 years later, assuming that I am able to have a child, I will be able to have that person 21 years from now petition for me.
So
that is too
have you heard
attenuated.
of these flights?